morning. I'll officially call to order the regular meeting of Coachella Valley Water District Board of Directors. It is January 28th, 2025 here in Coachella. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Yes, good morning, President Powell.
Here.
Vice President Estrada.
Here.
Director Bianco.
Here.
Director Aguilar will be absent for this meeting, and Director Nelson.
Here.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. We're here. Got four, that's enough.
Four.
Do we have any additions, deletions, or adjustments to today's agenda?
What? Or me? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just for the record, Mr. President, we are on item
Adjustment.
10B. Yeah, it's just an adjustment. 10BI should really be under C, so we'll have two under C. Just a minor correction to the agenda. It will not be a report filed. There will actually be a presentation by Chandler, I believe, correct?
8B
Carla?
moves to 8C.
10B,
10B,
excuse me,
sorry.
10BI, the presentation by Chandler. We will have folks making a presentation. Yeah, so we'll just move
Oh,
it to
so
C.
that'll be a presentation. Yeah, no worries. Okay.
Yes, that's it.
That's not much of a change.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the public wishing to comment at this time?
Non-agenda.
We'll have opportunities, obviously, as we move along for public comment on specific items. Next is special presentations and recognitions, and we have two anniversaries, both 20 years. Chris Flores, Operations Supervisor for Stormwater, Canal, and Drainage, is, I believe, not attending, correct? So congratulations to Chris, but then we do have Marcos Ayala here, also 20-year anniversary. Raised in Indio, Marcos enlisted in the U.S. Army upon graduating high school, and after his service, he returned to the desert for work and held diverse roles, including serving as a meter reader for the city of Indio and a sorter and driver for UPS. Marcos joined CVWD's domestic construction team in 2005 and later transitioned to the valve and hydrant crew. An opportunity opened in the Canal Division, where he has spent the last decade making a significant impact. In his current role, Marcos maintains 56 animal drinkers, large pond structures that provide clean water for desert wildlife in Slab City and Salvation Mountain areas. I love it out there, he says, sharing that he appreciates the autonomy that his job provides. Outside of work, Marcos is a devoted family man. He and his wife Gracie and kids often host family gatherings. They affectionately call Saturday Therapy, a time to connect, reflect, and share a meal. In their free time, Marcos and his family enjoy camping, hiking, and exploring the great outdoors with their new RV. And you're going to come on up, and I want to just hear what kind of animals are drinking out of those things. I'm sure you've spotted a few, but come on up. Congratulations.
Army, huh? Go Navy. Oh. Thank you. Thank you.
That's for you.
Thanks.
Nice smile right here on 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Now it's your turn if you want to say anything.
No, just thanks a lot, and time
Animals.
flies.
Animals.
Oh, animals. I mean, you have from deer to donkeys to cats to bighorn, and I mean raccoons and all that. But it's a lot of beautiful animals out there.
Perfect.
A lot.
Good for you.
And I mean, you get paid and enjoy the outdoors
Fresh air.
and fresh air.
Unless there's a fire.
Well, that's something different.
Yeah.
A little dusty.
All right. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Marcos.
Thanks for your help.
Donkeys. Donkeys. I've never seen that. You see mountain lions out there? Oh yeah, those are cool. Okay. So On to the consent calendar. What we have before us is items 6A through L.
Yeah, I move approval of our consent calendar.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Good. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass 4-0 with one absent. On to our public hearing. I'll read the whole thing. This is a public hearing to consider a resolution of necessity of the Board of Directors of Coachella Valley Water District for the acquisition by eminent domain of a fee interest within certain real property located in the unincorporated area of Thousand Palms in Riverside County, California, and identified as portions of assessor's parcels number 651-130-057, 651-140-013, 014, 015, and 016 for the Thousand Palms Flood Control Project. At this time, staff will provide a presentation on the necessity for the acquisition by eminent domain of a fee interest within certain real property located in the unincorporated area of Thousand Palms. And I just read all the APN numbers for the flood control project. Following the presentation, we will open the public hearing. Making the presentation this morning is Carrie Oliphant, Director of Engineering. Hi. Morning, Carrie.
Good morning. So, as you just read, we're bringing to you a resolution of necessity, and it's to acquire 5.78 acres via eminent domain for the Thousand Palms Flood Control Project. So, to meet the requirements of the eminent domain code, the resolution of necessity has to contain certain items, and I'll briefly review those here. There's more detail in the staff report for further information. So the first thing that we have to do is provide a description of the general location and extent of the property to be taken. So this subject property is located south of Ramon Road, east of Vista de Oro, in the unincorporated area of Thousand Palms in Riverside County. And attached to the resolution or the proposed resolution are the legal exhibits and the plat depictions. The second item is we need to provide a general statement of the public use for which this property is to be taken. So the subject property is required in order to construct a portion of the Thousand Palms Flood Control Project for the conveyance of floodwaters through the designed conveyance system. And then the next item, we have to find and determine the following 4 items. So the first finding is the public interest and necessity require the proposed project. This subject property is essential for constructing these critical flood control facilities designed to protect the region from flooding, originating from watersheds covering over 100 square miles. The project provides significant economic and environmental benefits while safeguarding public health and safety. Finding 2 is the proposed project is planned or located in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. Thorough analysis was conducted to find the best alignment for the Thousand Palms Flood Control Project. CVWD analyzed other nearby properties for the construction of the necessary improvements. However, it was determined that the use of the subject property provides the greatest benefit for the public good since it is vacant and most parcels are currently without access. Finding 3, the property described in the resolution is necessary for the proposed project. The subject property, 5.781 acres, is necessary for the project to construct a portion of the flood control improvements. The subject property is vacant and there are no improvements that will be impacted by the project. And then the fourth finding is that an offer required by this section 7267.2 of the Government Code has been made to the owner or owners of record. CVWD has made 4 offers to the owner on the following dates: March 21st, 2023, August 21st, 2023, October 3rd, 2023, and most recently on October 17th, 2024. All offers of just compensation were based upon an independent appraisal, and the offers were for the full market value as determined by an independent appraisal. CVWD has attempted to negotiate amicable settlements in good faith and will continue to do so through the eminent domain process to acquire the property through negotiations with the owners. So based on these findings, once the public hearing is completed, staff is recommending that the Board of Directors adopt the resolution of necessity as identified in the staff report, authorize legal counsel to commence an eminent domain proceeding to acquire portions of the parcels identified in the staff report, authorize the general manager to execute any and all documents in the name of the Coachella Valley Water District needed to commence and process an eminent domain proceeding to acquire portions of the parcels identified in the staff report, and authorize the expenditures of $122,700.
Thank you. Gary. Okay, this is the time and place for a public hearing to receive testimony on the acquisition by eminent domain of a fee interest within the identified 5.781 acres of vacant real property for the Thousand Palms Flood Control Project. I hereby declare the public hearing open. Does anyone attending this public hearing wish to be heard? Please give your name and address and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Come on up.
My name is Peter Teinberg. I live at 70711 Tamarisk Lane in Rancho Mirage. My partners and I have owned 11 10-acre parcels in Thousand Palms since 1978. These parcels are 651-130-014, 651-130-056 and 057, and 651-140-009 through 016. In 2001, we were told at a Riverside County Planning Department hearing by Tom Levy, CVWD General Manager, where he blocked 2 of our subdivision maps, that all 11 parcels were needed for the Thousand Palms Flood Control Project, and that acquisition of them would begin in 2003. We could not in good conscience offer them to unknowing buyers for residential homes, which is what they were zoned for, as a dike and flooding was to come to the parcels. We therefore made requests over the past 22 years for CVWD to purchase them, and these requests were ignored until recently. These 110 acres are part of the 550 acres that the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission has determined that CVWD must purchase for this project. In an independent assessment of value, the CVCC also estimated that the cost of these 550 acres was estimated to be $20,625,000, or a cost of $37,500 per acre. In 2023, CVWD made not 3, but 4 eminent domain offers for the 11 10-acre parcels in Thousand Palms that I've described. These offers were initially for $4,600 an acre and later for $8,100 an acre. We refused these offers as the highest price offer was less than 25% of the value estimated by CVCC of $37,500 per acre for the property. For several years, CVWD has been aware of this upcoming expense and has obviously made provision for it from their $450 million of cash and investments, as reported in the CVWD 2024 financial statement, which is on record and also on the internet. Because we have been unable to develop these parcels for their county-approved residential use, and because we felt that CVWD's offers were unfairly low, we filed an inverse condemnation suit in October 2024. Now CVWD would like to acquire under eminent domain only small portions of 5 of these parcels on which the dike needed is to be constructed, but this will severely devalue the remaining portions of each parcel, and in addition, flooding, your flood maps show that 4 other parcels and 2 other remaining parcels will all be affected by flooding, but not be acquired by CVWD. As the 5 parcels will be severely devalued and others flooded, we were told many years ago that all 11 were needed for this project. This resolution of necessity does not take into consideration the above history and therefore is not equitable. CVWD is a permittee of the Multi-Species Habitat Conservation Plan, and in their 2021 determination letter to CVWD, the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission stated that 550 acres were acquired for this flood control project. Our 110 acres are part of those 550 which were to be acquired. CVWD is a special district agency created by the state of California, whose board is elected by local voters. Therefore, CVWD is expected to act reasonably, fairly, and in good faith in all of its dealings with the public, whether it be in supplying water service or in any other matter, but certainly in seizing private property by using eminent domain. The actions of CVWD must be in good faith. It appears in this action there is an abuse of CVD's power of eminent domain. Thank you.
Thank
Are
you.
there any questions? Right, but being this is a public hearing, we will receive the testimony, and then once this goes to the board for consideration, then there can be a discussion.
Thank you.
There are no questions.
Okay, so do we have any other public comment for today? Do we have, Clerk Bermudez, have we received any written communications?
Yes, Mr. President, we did receive a written copy of Dr. Steinberg's comments, which were added as part of the record distributed to the board, in addition to a separate handout from Dr. Steinberg, which also were included as part of the
Thank you.
record.
Thank you. Council Furray, will you please comment on this public hearing?
Yes, thank you. On the 19th of December of 2024, a notice of this hearing was sent to the record owners of the property via regular U.S. mail certified receipt requested, and personal service. The purpose of this hearing is for the board to consider and decide each of the following issues, and I'll list those here for the record as part of the legal procedure, but staff has already given a response to each of these elements. Number 1, whether the public interest and necessity require the proposed project. 2, whether the proposed project is planned or located in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. 3, whether the identified real property is necessary for the proposed project. 4, whether an offer to purchase the property was made pursuant to 7267.2 of the Government Code. As I said before, each of these elements have been explained. They are part of the record, and staff has presented their point of view to give a response to each of these elements to give the background for this action. The amount of compensation to be paid for the property is not an issue to be decided, and the adoption of a resolution of necessity will not preclude CVWD from continuing to negotiate with the property owner. My partner, Whitney Asaraka, is on the Zoom in case there's any other particular legal questions. I would also just note for the record that there has indeed been a case filed by Dr. Steinberg for inverse condemnation. That's a separate action. It's not part of this discussion today, and because it is pending litigation, it's not something that we can really comment on. But the process for eminent domain that is being proposed today, we have been working with the property owner, and based on the history that has been given, our recommendation is to proceed with the eminent domain action. Of course, always looking to see if we can negotiate something with the property owner. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. There being no further input, I hereby declare the public hearing closed. The board will now take up discussion and consideration to adopt the resolution of necessity for the acquisition by eminent domain of a fee interest within the identified real property for the Thousand Palms Flood Control Project. Do we have any comments or questions from board members? It seems to me the question is fairly specific of whether these points have been met for the resolution of necessity.
Just coming up in case there's any questions. I don't have anything further to add.
Yeah, no, I just was commenting on the presentation. Anything else? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the listed actions, which is adopt resolution 2025-03, titled a resolution of necessity for the Board of Directors of CBWD for the acquisition by eminent domain of a fee interest within certain real property located in unincorporated area of Thousand Palms in Riverside County with the listed APNs for the Thousand Palms Flood Control Project, and also to authorize legal counsel to commence an eminent domain proceeding to acquire portions of the assessor parcel numbers listed for the Thousand Palms Flood Control Project. And 3, authorize the general manager to execute any and all documents in the name of CBWD needed to commence and process the eminent domain proceedings for the named parcels for this project, and also authorize expenditures in the amount of $128,700.
And I would just mention that this would require a 2/3 vote of the board, that is 4 of the 5 seats on the board. So we have 5 board members, 1 is absent, so it would take 4 of the 5 for to pass
Okay.
this action.
That's
Question.
good to know.
Yeah, good. A question for legal counsel. So you mentioned that we would still continue to have talks with
Mhm.
the owner. And I guess I was trying to get a better sense of how that, so what are the next steps moving forward? This is obviously one
Sure.
step, and then, but there's multiple things in
Right.
play here. So can you just give me a sense of what that looks like?
Absolutely. My partner, Whitney Asaraka, is on the Zoom, and she can speak to the litigation steps along the way. Whitney?
Yes, so that's a great question. The next step would be to draft a complaint in eminent domain and file an action. As Jeff mentioned, there is a pending action by Dr. Steinberg for inverse condemnation. They'd likely be related or coordinated in some manner. But to your initial question, throughout that entire process, we can continue to speak with Dr. Steinberg's counsel in an effort to reach a resolution.
Thank you, Whitney.
Of course.
Anything else? Okay, so I'm looking for a motion and a second to the listed
Listed items.
item that I described. Okay.
How time sensitive is this? Is it urgent that we do this today?
Well, it's the first step of a continuing long process. But in order to move the process forward, this is the next step. We've had discussions about this. Certainly, it can be kicked down the road, but we haven't made any progress until we've gotten to this point. I mean, there's not much more we can do to drive this forward. And there is a need to move the project forward. This project has been, discussed since, 2003, probably even discussed before then. It's not that we haven't tried to move it forward, but this is the next step.
Right, and maybe staff can explain the overall project and where we are.
So we have, the design is complete for this project and the environmental impact report was approved, and finalized. So we're in the land acquisition process right now. And this is part of it. This is, the first offer that we're making, or the first, attempt to purchase land, for the project. And.
This is not the first offer.
No,
You're-
I'm just saying this is the first property where we have finalized the appraisals and we've made an offer and we're in the process of purchasing. We are working with other property owners within that alignment as well. We've been actively working with the county. There is a portion of the project down along Avenue 38 that we need to acquire some property or transfer some property with the county. So this is our focus right now, is to acquire all of the property. And then we are breaking the project up into 4 reaches or 4 phases in an effort to start funding, a reach at a time and get the project constructed. So there is some time sensitivity to this.
Is this the, cause I know we're gonna phase, is this the first one that we would build, or is this more upstream?
This is more upstream, yeah.
So,
I'm confused at where excuse me if I'm pronouncing it, Theinberg is talking about on the CVCC's estimate of $37,000 an acre. Where does that come from?
It came from the CVCC, I'm not sure if it's in the CVMSHCP, but that came from CVCC, probably back in the time when it was being put together, 2007, 9, something like that.
But isn't it, am I wrong when I say that this property could not be developed for anything unless it has flood control?
Correct.
Yeah, so I don't know, it seems like the flood control is actually, would be helping the property, so it could be developed one day.
Well, once the project is completed, everything on the east side is going to be conservation land, designated conservation land. But the property on the west, or I guess you could say southwest side, would be developable.
Because it would become protected.
Mhm.
Okay, so I have a question also, maybe for Whitney, question. So it seems like we've been unable to reach an agreement on
Value
maybe
conversation.
price and how many acres, okay? So if we go forward through this judicial process, and I understand they're still on 2 tracks, right? So we can continue to negotiate outside of the judicial process, but then you have this other process that Whitney might comment on. What is the decision? I mean, is there a judge that's at some point gonna decide yes or no, or is there, or can the judge change the dollar amount or the number of acres through that process after hearing both sides? That's my question. Is it a yes or no, or is it or can it change in the judicial process as far as acres and
I would
price?
suspect acres, no.
well, so the question is, what is the realm of discussion on price and what is the legal limitations on the amount of property to be acquired?
Right.
Whitney?
Yeah, so the judge would make a decision, yes or no, on the property sought. That is also negotiable within the context of the litigation, but it would be more of a yes or no question with respect to whether the district can take the property sought. The amount is a judge and or jury, judge or jury decision. We would put forth, appraisers, experts, information. Both sides would submit their expert information on what they think the value should be, and then the judge or jury would make a decision on setting that amount.
But in terms of the law, as a public agency, what are the limitations on this water district in terms of how much they can pay or offer and how much they can acquire? I mean, they can't acquire all properties, right?
No, they can pay just compensation, which is appraised value. So the reasonable value of the property, taking into consideration, development limitations, everything that appraiser would take into consideration in valuing that property. That's what they can pay, just compensation. And then the amount they can only acquire what is necessary for the project. So that goes back to those 4 elements that we've talked about a couple times today. They can't take through eminent domain more than is required.
And
For the project.
Okay, and
For the project, yes.
And what is? Can you comment on severance value?
So, yes, I do want to make note that value, and I know Dr. Teinberg raised this, and that is, going to be at issue in both his pending action as well as the subsequent eminent domain action that we may file on behalf of the district. But that's not an issue for the board to consider today. That will be a judge or jury determination down the line. But just to answer your question generally, it is, if the property is severed, so if a portion is taken, it's the impact to the remaining portion that the property owner will keep.
Would be considered.
Yes, that is considered.
All right. Now, I hope I'm not mixing this up with another case, but I recall reading that there was offered $5,000 for the property owner to get their own appraisal.
Correct. That's standard.
That's standard.
Yeah, so that's,
And did that happen?
yes.
Yes.
That did happen. And did we see the other appraisal?
We did. It was not, it was a spreadsheet or a table. It wasn't an appraisal that we typically, it wasn't similar to what we typically acquire. It was a little bit limited in terms of the backup documentation.
Was it done by a certified appraiser?
I don't think so. Let me.
Again, we're getting into discussions about value and compensation.
Yes.
And,
Well,
Yeah.
I know, but that's what got us here.
well, it's what didn't get us here.
It's the stale world, but so we're at a stalemate. I'm just trying to understand what that stalemate is, that
He values
I-
the property.
yeah,
more
I-
than
if we can't
can
do
pay.
it, if we can't work it out, then we go to court. And so this is the decision we're making here.
But this
Well, the
gets us
decision,
further.
I do want to note, the decision should be limited to those 4 factors that we keep referencing. I know that value, and it's hard to separate it, value is certainly at issue between the district and Dr. Teinberg. And that's, going to be an issue within the context of the eminent domain action. But for purposes of the resolution of necessity hearing, we really should try to limit it to whether those 4 elements have been met in deciding whether to adopt.
No, and I have no question about that. I guess what I'll move approval of this, but I would also like to see a closed session item so we could have a more complete discussion of the negotiation, because I know it's subject to this litigation now.
Well, we've had one.
No, I know, but that was a while ago.
So the fact that there were appraisals and they came up with numbers, that's not confidential, right? What those numbers were?
I mean,
No,
No, they're attached to the staff report.
it was
Yes.
in there. I don't
We-
remember seeing the landowner's appraisal. Was it in
No,
there?
the owners accepted the reimbursement with respect to the entirety of the parcels, but they did not pursue an updated independent appraisal for just the portions of the parcels that we're seeking now through eminent domain. So that was the issue. They did an appraisal for the whole 110. And then we narrowed that down to just the project area. And in the appraisal, we do take into account the severance. That's part of the number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of that is public knowledge. Now, if we have to proceed to file the eminent domain action, then of course, there would be an appropriate closed session for that. And if the inverse condemnation action does proceed, we're not able to reach an agreement, then of course, we'll have a closed session on that. But the fact that offers were made based on appraised value and what those numbers are is all public record, as well as the fact that as a public agency, we're limited to acquiring the property needed for the project so that the ratepayers don't pay for a larger piece of property.
I
And that's
understand.
the dispute. We get it. And if we have to go to court and argue those things, great, but hopefully we won't get to that point.
Right.
So I guess in a oversimplification, all this action does is identify that these are in fact the parcels we need for the project. Without regard to compensation value, in order to move forward, this is the next step.
Right.
It's not the end of the discussion
Nope.
with the property owner, it's not the end of the process.
No, and that's why I'm asking for a closed session item.
Sure.
If we have room at our next meeting.
Yes, sir, we can fit it in.
Yeah. All right, so there's a motion. Do we have a second? did.
Powell.
You did, okay, I apologize. I missed that.
So if the motion fails for lack of a second, a couple options here. We've gone through the public notice. We've gone through the public hearing process. We could table this matter for a motion to bring it back at a future meeting, and in the meantime, with a full board and with questions answered, then the board can reconsider that. I would just caution against not adopting it today or at a continuing meeting, because then you'd have to start the process all over again, which would
Notice,
be a
hearing.
benefit to the property owner or the district. So, that would be, Whitney, do you agree that we could take a motion to table this, to continue to a future meeting, date certain, and continue the process there?
Yes.
Right, and I think that's a better outcome than having a failed vote, right?
Right,
Then
as
we
I
have
said
to
before,
start over.
that wouldn't be fair.
All right,
The-
so I'll
the
amend,
property owner's supposed-
I'll amend my motion to table this to, should we make it 2 meetings from now so that we'll have time to?
I was.
I think we're ready to proceed. I mean, you could do it at the next meeting. I mean, I don't know that there's
Yeah,
any
but we
new
won't have
information.
the closed session. We won't
Right,
have
so
the-
I recommend that if you're gonna table it, that we table it to a particular meeting, which would be the next meeting of,
It would not be our next meeting, it'd be the meeting after that.
Well, we have a study session in between, right? We could have a closed session.
well, let's just do the open session part now. So that would be to continue this item that
Okay.
we're discussing right now to the meeting on,
February, this, 2 meetings from now would be, would be February 25th. That would be the second meeting in February, which would be back here in Coachella, because the next meeting will be February 11th. And if you wanted,
All right, so that's my amended motion.
Second.
I guess we're ready to vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed 4-0. Thank you, Dr. Teinberg. Don't want to,
Can I say one further thing? This
Sure.
doesn't take into consideration.
Dr. Teinberg, could you come up to the mic just so that I can capture your comments for the record, please? Thank you.
The way this began, I mean, it began back in, all right, there are a couple items here. I've been following this process. This flood control program isn't to protect homes. Look at the outflows from the Indio Hills in that area, in Palm Desert and in India, where there are a lot of new homes. All of it has similar outflow. And because there's sand, it's mostly absorbed. This program is all about blow sand. And if you look at the determination letter that Peter Satin wrote to your staff, and that is on record, it describes moving water over so the sand can be blown down into the preserve. This is not about saving homes or really flood control for any other purpose, to move this sand east so it can be blown down to the fringe-toed lizard. I've watched this whole process for over 40 years. Now, when the multi-species habitat conservation plan was finally approved in 2008, and I was conversant, she used to play tennis at our house with Corky, and she tried to protect our rights but what happened is the Fish and Wildlife and the California Fish and Game said, no, that property which you guaranteed Teinberg and others that they could develop when they sold land for the preserve, as we were told to, we can't let you let them develop because the blow sand is needed. And the Fish and Wildlife held the 4 interchanges on 10 over Corky's Head, and so Riverside County withdrew our zoning for mixed use. So this is what's really occurred. This is the last, and we had to sell first to the preserve and then to the California Fish and Wildlife. We ended up taking small losses, okay? This is the last one. Now, this particular accumulation of properties isn't just being mandated by CVWD. It's being controlled by the Coachella Valley Multi-Species Plan, which is administered by the CVCC, the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission, and they have determined that you have to purchase 550 acres, not 5 acres. So your attorneys and your engineering department are trying to buy 5 acres when they really need all 110 acres because you have a requirement of 550 acres.
All right, thank you
Yeah,
very much.
and I want to state that these are all points that we can certainly discuss, or that the board can discuss, if we proceed with adopting the resolution of
No, I
necessity.
understand. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your
Okay,
comments.
I'm sorry I didn't want to put my nose in to
Yeah, yeah.
what isn't
No.
my business, but for 40 years, it's been a complicated problem, and I'm so happy that you're going to understand now.
Thank you. Aren't you on the CVCC?
We'll talk about assignments later.
Aren't you the president?
Oh, that's coming up.
Didn't you say that document?
Well, okay, I do appreciate the comments. So that's the end of that.
Not yet.
No.
Well, for today.
Disagree.
For today. Yikes. I know, I have one in my pocket too, but I really appreciate that, thank you. So, we're on to 9A, I believe.
Yes.
Review of current board committee assignments. And this is where I really wanted Director Aguilar to be here today, but see if we have an update for the coming year. I mean, I know the 2 changes I was prepared to make on mine were dropping off of the Golf and Water and then getting on to the Finance Committee.
Okay.
But I think we'd have to change
And-
somebody on the Finance Committee. I don't know who that
Correct.
is.
And just so we know, an email did go out to all board members asking for any changes or requests and changes or anything like that, interest and so forth. And we did not receive any other than your comments on it.
Yeah, is that Estrada and Aguilar on the Finance Committee?
is.
Yeah.
So
Did
I can't get on that unless you wanted to get off of it, so.
Did Director Aguilar provide
Doc-
any comments to you about
No,
that committee?
he did state that he would like to remain on the Finance Committee and also, I believe, on the Legislative Committee, which you both currently sit on. So he has expressed an interest in remain on those 2 committees.
Okay.
It's really up to you if you want to.
Could we do an
It's not a big
alternate?
deal.
Having that,
It's an ad hoc, it's a standing committee.
I'm fine.
Yeah, sure.
So
Get off of it.
another
It's easier
option
to-
that we
Yeah.
could propose is having an alternate. So if we have the 2 members and then have a third as an alternate, so if one of the primary members is not able to attend, we do have an alternate so that the meetings could continue as well. And I just verified
Yeah.
with legal that
I'll be
is
fine being the alternate.
on
The
finance.
Finance, okay, thanks. Just see if we can get that fired up again. So that leaves an opening on the Golf and Water Task Force.
Can you, can you come on up, please, for the?
Yeah, no, there's a tremendous staff presence at the Golf and Water Task Force.
Yeah,
You know,
You
more
know,
folks
we're
than-
well represented by staff on the Gulf and Water Task Force, so I think if you, and General Manager Barrett typically goes to those meetings as well, and we're moving projects along as best we can, so we could keep the board informed and, you know, not have necessarily a standing member on that task force.
Yeah, and probably for transparency, I'm considering no longer participating in that as well. I think, unfortunately, the industry has not particularly embraced that forum. We get a few diehards that continue to attend, but Craig Kessler, who has kind of been a force in continuing that, is about to step down. I think it's a huge investment of our time, and I'm not sure we get adequate returns on it. We're happy to continue participating at their venue. Should they decide that it has value for them to continue, but for us to host and invest all the staff time that we've invested. I mean, we went after money for conservation for turf removal, and we really got no applications at all. So we have one more initiative that we're moving through, which is to do mapping, which is something we've tried to get money for years now, probably since the beginning, to at least have the ability to develop water budgets, should the golf courses want those. I don't get the sense that until the media or there's a greater focus on conservation for the golf industry, they are comfortable in their current practices. And where we can help, we're happy to help, but it's, you know, people continue to think this is our meeting, and it's not. It's the golf industry's meeting, and to just move it to their venue.
I know what you're saying, but I do think we should stay engaged. I don't think we should.
I'm not saying we'll walk away, I'm just saying that, you know.
I don't think you should change anything. I think that they are making progress. It's little by little. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think that golf is such an important industry to the Coachella Valley that it's worth it for CVWD to be involved.
I see.
Worth
It's
it.
an important effort, and, you know, there are the diehards, and they are very serious, and some of them have done very well with conservation too, but the industry as a whole is a much larger footprint than what we're getting into these meetings.
We get
And-
10, maybe 12 of 120 golf courses.
And I do, and when you look at the aggregate numbers, you don't really see much change. You don't see any change, and that's for a variety of reasons. And I get it. I'm not blaming anyone, but it's a lot of effort for not a lot of.
But for this discussion, whether or not to have board members on the committee,
Well, we wouldn't need a
you can
committee
just
aside.
decide not to have them, and that's fine, and then the larger discussion can take.
Yeah,
And-
and it's not even a committee. It's a
Or
It's representation.
You're
This
not-
task
you're not
force.
voting on anything. All you're doing
No.
is it's.
There's no
So it's-
mandates. There's a little bit of money that.
And, you know, if I could just make a comment about the grants, I mean, you know, when we first submitted the application for the grant, the $1.5 million, you know, what the golf courses really wanted were irrigation system upgrades, controller upgrades, and those areas they felt would make a big difference. And based on our other conservation programs on the domestic side, we agree, but the Bureau of Reclamation wouldn't fund that. They would only fund turf removal. So, you know, we would have preferred this to be a different program, but that's not what we were able to get. So,
Yeah. No, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think, you know, blame or fault is even an issue here, but, you know, people are trying. It's hard to, I mean, there's competing forces here. I mean, people want their golf courses to be green. They don't want to go do the alternative.
I mean, that's why our population doubles
I
in
know,
size
I know.
for 6 months. I mean,
Anyway, so I'm off of that.
So-
I'm not aware of any other changes.
you wanna hop on that
On the golf?
on the golf thing?
We don't need to.
No?
We don't.
Then I'll just stay on.
Okay, so we'll keep it, change it.
We don't need two of us there.
Okay, so just Director Bianco will continue, Director Powell is jumping off, and then also just with the note that staff can continue to handle and attend. those.
Right.
Okay.
And then we have changing Vice President Estrada to alternate on the Finance Committee, and I'll join the Finance Committee.
Can I ask, is there an interest also to have an alternate on the Legislative Committee? Because I know at times we have experienced challenges in that, so I think having an alternate on that would also benefit, if there's any interest from.
Why don't you add me to the golf one?
Add you to the golf?
I'll go.
Okay.
Go kick some
I'll go hang out with Anthony.
Kick some ass.
Well, you'll meet some people that you
Yeah.
don't know.
Director Powell or Nelson, any interest in the Legislative? We could offer a Zoom option.
If we do the Zoom option,
I could
I'll
definitely offer
I'll
a Zoom
jump on that
option.
one.
Okay,
Okay.
as an alternate?
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's the full Zoom, right? It's the
Yes.
regular teleconference Zoom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is a Brown
Yeah, I've
Act
got a
meeting, so
camera
we
right
would
here.
notice.
All right.
Okay.
I mean, posting at your location and all of that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
He's great. He takes
Okay.
care of all that, so.
Good. Do we
Um,
need to take action on those
You do,
changes?
but I do have a second piece to that, and I don't know
Okay.
if the board is interested in looking at, and I apologize, I haven't had a chance to distribute that. Can you pass this? If the board has any interest in looking at per diem, the board has not revised
Oh,
the
yeah.
per meeting per
Thought we were
diem,
gonna
which has
see
been
this.
223, I believe, since 2010, 2011 is the last time. We did do a survey of both similar size special districts, all within less than 100 miles. But we also looked at local agencies, the cities, which are found on the very last page that you can look at just in comparison. Some do provide a per meeting stipend, while others do provide a monthly salary. So I just wanted to get an idea if the board had any interest, we could continue the research and come back to the board with some revisions to the per diem, meeting per diem, when we do some revisions to the board travel policy, which will be coming in the next couple of weeks.
I'm not personally interested in changing it at
Okay.
all, but that's just my opinion.
Right, and just so,
Go down to 200.
We could do that.
Yeah.
I would vote for that.
You know, there's a reason that all these other ones are higher. I mean, is everybody higher?
No.
This is the first time I've seen this. Almost.
I mean, if we're looking at local, obviously, like Desert Water is significantly higher, they're 425. Beaumont, Cherry Valley Water is 296. Chino Basin is less, 125. Cucamonga Valley Water is 250. So, Eastern is 236.
Sylvia, you know what's not captured in here is a sense of limitation to the number of meetings.
It's 10 meetings.
All of these are 10?
Everybody's 10.
Everybody's 10.
so, the process would be that there would be a public notice published in the newspaper once a week for 2 weeks. And then after that, the board would have an ordinance that you could adopt. And if it is adopted, then 60 days after the effective day of the ordinance, an increase would go into effect. But the law is clear about it's 10 meetings per month. It can only go up 5% since, for each year since your last adjustment. So that's process.
Do we know the number if we went up? What's the range? I mean, obviously, we can go down too, but what's the upper limit with that 5% limit?
Well, it would be 5% for each calendar year since your last adjustment, so that could be quite a bit. If we
But did
had-
somebody do that?
Compounded?
No, I did not, and I can look at that, because I believe the last time the board considered an increase was 2010, if I'm correct, 2011.
So say 15 years?
And you wouldn't have to do that.
No,
correct?
no.
No, I know, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to get the range.
Yeah.
I want to be sensitive to the idea that people may or may not be interested in serving on this board, and I think that for the amount of effort, assuming you're really making the effort, the amount of effort compared to the amount of annual compensation it's a little, I think it's a little out of whack. I think the I mean, I just got my little tax form and it said something around $20,000. And it's a lot of effort for $20,000, I think. You know, you get paid for the meeting, but what about the prep for the meeting? You know, that's all on your own time. And usually it's on the weekends. anyways, I don't wanna, I think it's worth a discussion.
I think so too.
And a couple others, just Mission Springs is 250 per meeting, so we did incorporate some local districts as far as others. And then I even looked at just to look at the cities, what the local cities here, so Coachella, City of Coachella has a monthly stipend of $12.75. Cathedral City is $14.11 a month. Desert Hot Springs, depending the mayor, gets $4.29. Council members receive about $1,100. Indian Wells, the mayor's $2,088. Mayor pro tem is $1,700
Is that per?
per month.
Per
They
month,
do a
yeah.
monthly stipend. Usually the cities do
So it ends up somewhere in the 20,000 a year range, 20 to 30.
as well.
Yeah, where's
But I-
IID?
IIG has a
They were high a long
stipend.
time ago.
Yes. IIG is $54.76 a month. They do a monthly stipend.
Oh, is
So
it on here?
54 Uh-huh. Page 2.
Oh,
Is that 60 grand a year?
Yeah.
Yeah,
got it.
About.
like 80.
80 grand a year?
I mean, there,
I think they tie it to the county supervisor's salary.
They do.
And the judge, I think, yeah. So we could definitely look at more information, come back and look at what that 5% range would be. Looked at it over since the last raise and any other data we have extensive data. I just didn't include everything on here, but we could definitely do a little bit of more analysis on the information based on what the board would like to
do
see.
it.
Jim's calculating already.
10 years is 300. 10 years it would go up to 300.
Yeah, it would, yeah, I'm sure
If
the
you
upper end is somewhere around
compound.
400 though. Yeah. All right, no action there at this time, I
well, is
guess?
there any direction to staff
Any
to bring
direction.
something back for you to consider before?
No,
You
I mean,
locked
this is
into a
interesting.
notice?
I haven't, this was just handed to us right now, so I didn't really had a
We
chance to
were
look
working
at
the
it.
numbers up until yesterday.
Yeah.
Get that.
So maybe we'll just consider this for maybe possibly in the future. If anyone wants to bring it up, we could add it as a future agenda item.
Can
And
we
it-
get a copy of those charts? I don't know that it,
Yeah, if you open the Excel spreadsheet.
okay, it's in there.
It's in
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just gotta hit the tabs along with.
Oh, I don't think I emailed, so what I will do is I will email the spreadsheet so that you have all the data analysis. And I have to thank Alex, who was our intern when he first started, and later on, he has done all the data analysis. He's a Excel geek over there, so I love him
Good.
for that.
Nice use of color as well.
Good,
That was a compliment.
good. Yeah, I guess that is a compliment. Well
It
done.
is. Right.
So would you
And
like,
depends who's listening.
And then, but I would, on the committees, could we just do we need a
Yeah, a
vote for
motion.
that, on a motion on the actual committee appointments, making the changes with the alternates and removing Powell from Golf and Water,
Right.
and so forth, if we can
Adding
do those.
Estrada.
I'd make the motion to approve the committee assignment changes as discussed.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed 4-0.
so do you want staff to bring back more information, or do you want to wait till we're staff's
No,
told
I
to do so?
don't think we've had time to look at the information.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have it, we just,
Then you can.
Might be future agenda items the next week.
Yeah.
if somebody
Okay.
wants to add it as a future agenda item,
Alright.
that would be a great
Once you have a time, okay.
thing to do.
I will wait on that.
All right, and then B, I remembered we said we wanted this,
Yes.
and here it is.
It's been a while, so I do apologize, but before
Was this
you-
one that Director Aguilar asked for?
I believe it was based on some prior discussions on
Yeah.
community sponsorships,
was-
and the board
we had
directed
a-
us.
It got brought up when we had the request to sponsor the senior awards, and which,
They're
by the way,
back.
they're back, and I think there's a new request for it. And so I think there was a conversation on the dais about setting some type of policy to allow us to make sponsorships. You know, we thought that the Inspiration Award was a community event that we should be part of. We know that, for example, Mission Springs Water District is involved in a lot of those types of community events, and so,
So reading the proposed policy, it sounds like the Senior Inspiration Awards might not qualify. I mean, it's not, how is it directly tied to our mission of providing water? And how do these other agencies, I mean, who wrote that proposed policy, and is it required to be that strict?
Mr. Foray?
Yeah, so it has to somehow further the mission of the district, and this is a question I get from all my clients all of the time, if you're going to an event that is not tied to water, sewer, water resources, flood control, there has to be some connection to the mission of the district. If you go to a Chamber of Commerce event, and for example, and there's nothing on their agenda whatsoever about water, that would not fit the mission of the district. But if you're going there and be giving a presentation or passing something out or having a booth or it's a water conservation day, then that would meet the requirement. I get it. Going to events and keeping the name of the district out there is important, but in terms of events that are sponsored with district money and directors paid with compensation for it, has to be somehow tied to the mission of the district.
You know, I've seen, and I'll use this as an example, you know, over the last several years, I think IID really upped their kind of presence in the valley by being sponsors on almost all of the State of the City events and a lot of other events. And so you see that from a lot of the districts, and I think that's what raised the question is, you know, it seems like all these other agencies are, you know, involving themselves with the community at these community events where there's a bunch of other elected officials, county supervisors and such, and so that's really, you know, that's the question. How do they do that?
I don't know how they do that. The law says that there's a gift of public funds unless it is advancing a substantial interest of the public agency. So every district makes their own judgment call on that. I'm just telling you what the law is and what the connection needs to be.
So we might argue that CBWD would improve its image among the community by supporting the Senior Inspiration Awards,
And sure.
right? I mean, isn't that important?
And going there and saying we are the CBWD.
Because honestly, we have employees out there in the field that are interacting with the public all the time, and the more positive you can make the image of CBWD, the better that interaction is going to be.
Sure.
I mean, I would make that argument.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would make the same one. I think that's the intent of agency participations in a lot of these events is they're trying to create relationships. They're trying to maintain relationships. And I think it's been very effective by some of the agencies that do that. You know, you see them coming out and getting their message across, whatever that message might be, and it plays a role in.
So I
Maybe we could nominate one of our employees for a Senior Inspiration Award.
I don't think we have anybody that old. But I am a little
You're getting up
concerned.
there.
I am a little concerned that it's like Katie bar the door now. So anything is going to be open.
It's case by case, though. It's not like they take it from us.
What does staff use to help guide them in this case by case process? Because inevitably, anytime you show up with a CVWD badge on, you could say you were intending to improve community relations.
Well,
And so then there's really no reason to have a limiting policy.
Payment or sponsorship would have to be approved in advance.
But we don't do that now.
So
Yeah, but it's not hard to do.
so there hasn't been a lot
We
of
only do it during board meetings.
it hasn't been a lot of instances where it's come up, right? It seems like it's very limited. I can't think of one other than the Senior Inspiration Awards.
Oh, trust me, there
I
are
mean,
a
I
lot.
can see,
Okay.
for instance, you know, the Living Desert or other, you know, these garden clubs. I mean, and there's a direct connection there.
Why don't we, as part of the similar way that we did the commission,
committees.
the committee assignment, and we have a bunch of things in there that says this is what board members can participate in, and you have all the things listed there. If there's 2 or 3 or I don't know what the number is of things that we agree on, Senior Inspiration Awards is one of them, and you know, desert, living desert, and then that's the way we take care of it.
So,
You know, I mean, it starts
Like-
getting, I
like
get
a
that
list of approved-
it potentially gets into, you know, the YMCA and all these other
Yeah.
things. and-
What
Boys
we
and
could-
Girls
you know,
Club.
what we could do
Yeah.
is,
And then you remove it.
similar to what Director Estrada is saying, is provide a list of ones that we know the board as a whole is supportive, and anything outside of that list would then come to the board for actual review and approval. And that way, we have a list of organizations or particular events that that come throughout the year, and we know if this request comes before this is an automatic approval,
You know,
as the
it's
board
all,
has
all the
established that.
dues is already on there. This isn't much different, as far as the process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's on the consent calendar. There's some of them on there today.
The
It's-
membership dues?
It's
Mhm.
one thing to pay dues or membership to a Chamber of Commerce. But having gone to some of those functions, it's really, those entities have a different mission than we have. It's to help promote small businesses, commercial interests. It's not necessarily a CVWD issue. So paying dues is one thing. Buying a table to attend an event is something else. And, you know, there are a lot of these that come up that, hey, don't you want to sponsor this event? Don't you want to participate in this event? And it's like, okay, you know, Desert Valley Builders Association, do you want to buy a table to go attend a developer conference or session event? I mean, yeah, we're out there. Yes, the development community does pick a fight with us every once in a while, but, you know, we're in the same type of business together.
Right. but
Are you having board members come to pitch a bunch of these, like several, or is it mostly?
What do you mean pitch? Board
Well,
members pitch?
Well, saying, hey, could you help sponsor a table, or is there a lot of those, or is it just them doing it on their own?
Yeah, I get emails regularly from different folks, and I just throw them away because they don't fit the policy.
From folks or from the board?
But not from the board.
Well, if you all ask to attend a meeting, I don't take the policy out and show it to you. I say, okay, we'll go ahead and make a reservation
Is
for you.
there a lot of those coming in? Is there a lot of those types of requests?
Some board members never make a request.
Yeah,
This
but
is- this
some
is-
make a lot, or, I'm trying to figure out like what the,
Isn't that something different, though? I mean, we're talking about sponsorships here,
Yeah.
right? Not
Attendance.
attending a
Not
an
a
event.
one
Yeah.
single
This is two
registration.
different things, right?
Yeah, it is two different things.
Mhm.
I mean, if you go to a conference, I mean, you might buy a table, right? And up on the screen are all the sponsors, right? IID, SoCal, Edison. You know.
Well, we were asked to buy a table at the last senior initiatives, and we had to have staff attend because we didn't get that much participation from the board that wanted us to sponsor. So, I mean, I'm just trying to get clarity on what it is you want us to do, and if you want us to do all these things, I'm happy to do them. I just need clarity, that's all.
I'm kind of like, if we should attend, let's attend. But I think the key word that I have heard is when you start sponsoring events, all the events come, right? And so that's the concern. And I look at, you know, $5,000 to $10,000, up to $10,000 an event. Well, if you have 10 organizations, that's $100,000 of ratepayer funds that we're dispersing out for
see the
events
difference.
that are probably going to go on anyway.
Yeah, no,
so the Inspiration Senior Award, I think it was $1,000 for a table, 10 people, right?
There you go. Let's go.
no, I mean, there's a long list. I was asked for the Air Museum Gala, and I didn't even bring it. I didn't even bring it, I don't think. I brought it forward.
Well, we just got Boys and Girls Clubs.
Yeah. I think I would like to see the policy where elected director could bring
And put it
a
on the
request
agenda.
and put it on the consent
Yeah.
calendar,
And if someone wants,
and then we can,
You
and if
wanna
we don't
pull
like
it,
it, we
pull it.
can not do it.
yeah.
Okay,
But then it would have to be, I think the policy has to include the benefit of community engagement to improve the image of CVWD in the community. I think that's a benefit,
okay,
and not so strict that it has to be water and sewer.
okay. And
I
did
think
you
that's
write
what
this
we're
policy?
asking for.
Yeah,
You're-
So we're asking
took
for
pieces from-
an edit to the policy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And at first, I think it's all in
Got it, amend to include community benefit.
At the request, and it doesn't, I guess it doesn't have to be the request of the elected directors, but it should at least come, the
Yeah.
same way we have these dues things that come up on the
Yeah,
consent calendar.
and I think for the record, in the 10 years that I've been here, probably the Senior Inspiration Award
It's the only one.
is the only one that I've I think brought up that is outside what I would, that's so tight. It's not directly tight.
It's just an example.
It's an example,
Yeah,
right?
no, I get it.
But I've you know what I mean? Like, it's $1,000.
There are 1,200 charities in the valley, and they're all good.
Yeah.
Pretty much all good. Maybe one's bad, I don't know. But they're all good, and, we're not gonna support all of them, obviously, so.
Got it.
And then do you want a list?
Yeah, did we want to identify a
No,
list?
I think we want to avoid lists.
Yeah,
Okay.
avoid the list. And
So then is the intent to bring these requests in advance before the board for approval? So then
Yes.
I'm wondering, if we have that, then why have a policy?
Ding.
If the board, the reason was to establish the policy is so that we would not have to come to the board every time. We could have some guidelines to stay in, but
Right,
if the board is going to have to pre-approve everything
Yeah.
in advance, then personally, I don't know if there's a need for a policy if the board still is going to take an action.
I would agree.
I don't think we're bringing everything to the board, right? We still need a policy to make some decisions so that you're not looking at 10 or 12 of these a month.
ask to be on the agenda.
There won't be
for
that
a
many.
sponsorship
There-
to this event or that.
Okay. Is that clear?
As
I
well.
think we're clear.
So
Yes.
so no policy.
No, we
No,
have a
We
policy
want a policy.
that is going to be amended to include community benefit. And those community benefit items can, if requested by the board member, a board member can come before the board.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
I got it.
But the other ones that fit more directly with the mission can
I
be
would say
processed
don't
by
have to-
staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if it's a water summit,
Correct.
Right.
We don't need to go into
Aqua,
there's a bunch of those, and those are obvious.
Okay,
Special Districts Association,
okay.
Water
Okay.
Research
We'll make those
Foundation,
changes.
We'll make
Water
those changes, bring
Education
it back.
Foundation.
We rarely sponsor anything like that, though. We just attend.
You don't have visibility on it, sir.
But-
But we sponsor a lot of things.
We do sponsor, we don't just attend,
No.
and we're
we
not just
sponsor.
members, because
No.
usually of the membership and the attendance.
If it has water in the
there's-
name, it's kind of hard for us to say no.
So you sponsor also, on top of your membership and your attendance?
Yeah, that, we do sponsor things, once in a while, but I think my concern in the policy is that I would wanna have the ability to know what we're gonna, I think this policy is pretty clear. But we do turn things down all the time, but it's pretty routine, and because it has nothing related, it's not related to our mission, and there were some things that we were sponsoring when I took over as director that I stopped sponsoring because it wasn't related. It wasn't things that weren't even in the area, so there was no community benefit,
Yeah, okay.
in my mind.
Yeah, I get it, and we didn't hear about those, so no one screamed at us.
We're here for you,
Yeah.
sir.
So
First line of
I would want to rely on
Yeah.
make sure that, as staff, we
Yeah.
can rely on the policy to make a decision and not go to the board for things that,
on the
agree.
on the items related to water, direct connection to water and
Yeah.
the mission of the district, I think you have a sense too of what the board is involved in, whether it be Aqua or other water organizations, and so I think that gives you a sense of where we're the most involved and
Yeah.
where you might kind of concentrate
Handle
on the
it
sponsorships
and
things
take care
like
of it.
that, and the conferences and
Yeah.
et cetera, right? So.
yeah,
Thank you, Scott.
okay.
Onward
See,
to engineering. This is the Special Domestic Water System Installation Agreement with Desert Rec District. On the,
hey, Rob,
where is this?
Good morning, Mr. Barrett, and good morning, President Powell,
Oh, that's
members of the
thermal.
board.
Got it. Good morning.
My name is Robert Schull. I'm your Engineering Services Manager. What I have before you here, a special domestic water agreement is being proposed between CVWD and the Desert Recreation District. This is for the Thermal Community Park, which is up here on your screen.
Nice park.
This is about a 9.3 acre facility. This will be just east of Olive Street and just south of Church Street in the community of Thermal. The Desert Recreation District is to install approximately 940 feet of 8-inch pipeline within Olive Street from the intersection of Church Street south to its frontage, its western frontage there. The Desert Recreation District will be responsible for all of those costs. Therefore, this item is to recommend that to authorize the general manager to execute a special domestic water system installation agreement with the Desert Recreation District. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Remind me of what the cost is on our side? I don't have the.
Yeah, no cost on our side.
That's what I thought, all right. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out what's there now.
The school's right across the
It's-
street.
yeah, it's
the-
just
the Apple
open.
Market's at the end of
It's
the
just
road.
open ground, right? Maybe
Yeah.
some old trees there.
It used to be,
Oh.
it used to be an old date growth right there, and they've removed the trees.
They've had a few fires.
And
Yeah, that
cattle
had
ranch.
fire.
Yes.
All right, we have a
And cattle
motion.
ranch.
And a cattle ranch.
Yeah.
Oh, the Youngs had-
It's been
the
a while.
Youngs
I've been
had
on that
cows on
property
there.
a lot.
Yes, yes.
Fair
And that-
enough.
and
That's
that
right.
didn't
In
have-
my old days.
You managed that ranch, that's right.
No, that's
In
a
my
great,
old days.
that's a great place for a park, honestly. Good for them.
Yeah.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass.
Aye.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you so much.
I thought it was irrigation.
Next is the adopting the district's 2025 investment policy
Hey, Carla.
and
Hello.
approve resolution 2025-04. Go ahead, Carla.
Good morning. I feel like we were just here reviewing the investment policy. So we did review it in October. If you recall, I went ahead and submitted it for certification with the California Municipal Treasurers Association. We did receive that certification. We actually scored 95 out of 100. And when reviewing the policy last week with Chandler, they actually said that was one of the highest scoring policies with an initial review. So we did pretty well with our edits.
Way to go.
As a reminder, that certification does require 18 areas that they review to make sure that we are transparent, accountable, we are objective, we're following all the government codes. There was one minor recommendation during that review to eliminate one sentence on page 9 that no longer applies under the California Government Code, and that's the only edit that we are requesting with the 2025 policy. We don't intend to resend it for certification because it has been less than 6 months and there isn't substantial changes. We'll continue to monitor any changes with our accounting regulations or assembly bills, senate bills, et cetera, that may apply to any 2026 updates and then resend it for certification at that time. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have regarding the edit of the policy.
One minor change,
Yeah.
looks good.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to adopt and approve the resolution.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pass 4-0.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Carla.
Carla. Yeah, that was easy.
Flexing your new finance committee authority, huh?
And then we have this E, which is adopt the legislative and policy platform.
Hey, Karen, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President and members of the board. I would like to present to you the Coachella Valley Water District's 2025-2026 Legislative and Policy Platform for your review and approval. This platform is a critical guide that gives us access and movement on our advocacy efforts for the legislative and congressional sessions that last 2 years each. That's why it's a 2-year document. The platform makes sure that CVWD's interests are represented at the regional, state, and national levels of government by giving our staff and our government affairs advocates the directions they need to address legislative, regulatory, and administrative matters without having to seek a formal vote of the board or present for every new issue that might come up. The document outlines CVWD's goals for the legislative term, but understandably so, unexpected issues do come up or the board chooses to change its stance on a particular item or topic. The government affairs team will bring up these items to the board's attention as needed. The notable updates in the platform include Section 11, which acknowledges the growing threat of cybersecurity issues. In the platform, we state that we will advocate for increased funding and resources to address these challenges in our operations and infrastructure. In Section 12, we mentioned that CVWD staff will keep an eye on developments related to the State Water Project, the Delta Conveyance Project, the Sites Reservoir, and any legislative or regulatory actions that could impact the reliability or flexibility of water delivery to our contractors. A new addition is Section 16, where we also advocate for reforms and reducing the cost of infrastructure improvements to help maintain water affordability for our customers. This section gives us the opportunity to actively participate in discussions around water affordability in every level of government. At the end of the document, we've included a CVWD service map just to make sure that there is a geographical reference for any of our stakeholders. As you know, the Government Affairs team developed this document in collaboration with the CVWD board and the department directors to accurately reflect the district's collective priorities. I'm happy to take any of your questions.
All right. Is there a motion to approve
Yeah.
the adoption of
As
this?
a newly appointed reserve legislative committee member, I'll make the motion to.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Karen.
Good job.
Next is the written communications, which we've seen. There were 3.
Yes, there was a revised copy distributed to the board. You should have that in one of the many handouts you have.
Thank you. And then we have information presentations. Which one first? Chandler?
Yeah, we'll do Chandler first. I think that's
Okay.
what we have them set up for. And we do have.
Elaine Sampson should be online from Chandler. Yeah. So before you is the December 31st, 2024 quarterly investment report presented by Chandler. I do have Elaine. She'll go into some economics and updates on the report itself. But just as a reference, during the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we have earned about $11.3 million of investment earnings, and $9.6 million of that was within the Chandler portfolio. The difference was with other cash investments that we have with Camp and Leif and those sorts. And then projected to end the year, we are projected to end at about $19.6 million of investment earnings overall. So Elaine, do you, see if you can.
Yes, hi, it's Elena Marie Sampson. I'm here from Chandler. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So I will go through the investment report. I've been asked to speak briefly to the economy as well as to the operating reserve portfolio. So if we could move forward to page 4, please. Thank you. Actually, that page 3. I apologize. I will use the page numbers at the bottom of the page. So following the election headlines last year, the economic indicators have been presenting mixed signals. The labor market has been trending cooler, but is very choppy downward trend. Manufacturing is weak, but services is strong. Together, this has pointed to a difficult path for the Fed to manage its 2 mandates, the stable prices and stable employment. What you'll see at the bottom of the page here is that the yields rose through the month of December. And here in January, I'd add that we've been on another roller coaster with yields moving up 20 basis points mid-month, only to come back down to where we are today. So if we could turn to the next page, please. As I mentioned, it's been a very choppy downward trend. Non-farm payroll employment increased by 256,000 jobs in December. That was about 100,000 more than what was anticipated by the market, so another moment of surprise. Unemployment declined to 4.1%. Here in our state, we see that our unemployment remains higher than the nation at 5.4%. It's unchanged for the last couple of months. And Riverside's unemployment in the county actually reduced down to 5.4% in line with the state. If we could go forward 2 pages, please, to inflation. Thank you. The headline consumer price index, which you see on the left-hand side, that increased about 0.4% month over month in December. This translates to a year-over-year number that you see here on the page at 2.9%. And this was really driven by higher food and gasoline prices. I'm sure all of us have heard the news about the egg prices. The index for energy rose about 2% over the year, and this really is what is accounting for the high increase in that headline CPI number. I'd note that in Riverside, it has been a little bit lower compared to the US, driven by lower energy prices in the region. If we could move forward to consumer, please. The U.S. retail and food services, we as consumers represent about 2/3 of GDP in the country, and our spending was very strong in the most recent period in December, partially due to motor vehicle sales, and this comes as an effect of the hurricanes that took place over in the East Coast, Florida, all the way through North Carolina, where individuals were replacing their vehicles. We also saw really strong holiday sales, and that included gasoline sales from higher holiday travel, as well as online retail sales. I'm going to jump forward several pages now to LEI, which is on page 8. And just to state that the LEI, page 8, sorry, is no longer indicating any signals of recession. So just wanted to highlight that. And CFNAI on the right-hand side shows we are not presently in recession. So moving forward to Federal Reserve, which is on page 12, the FOMC cut the target rate of federal funds by 25 basis points to 4.25 to 4.5%. This completed 100 basis points, that's 1 full percent rate cuts in 2024. In that last vote, there was one dissenter who preferred no cuts. Their next meeting actually is starting today with the results coming out tomorrow. So in terms of bond yields, which is on the next slide, the yields that I point to on that right-hand side have fallen rather sharply on the short end of that yield curve from the 5% levels we were all very excited about in 2024 to solidly being in about 4.5% in 2024. On the left-hand side, I point to that roller coaster that I was describing as the market absorbed different election rhetoric as we elected new federal leadership, and then announcement of top cabinet positions. Each of those moments brought new hand-wringing to the table. Ultimately, Chandler does not anticipate Treasury yields to drop dramatically. Our economy over the past year has been much more resilient than most in the marketplace believed, though I will note that that inflation number that I was pointing to has gotten a bit stubborn. So that is accounting for why the Fed is slowing their anticipated rate cuts this year. So as we move forward to the portfolio, again, I'll try to keep this brief. The objectives, where we were on page 15, this report includes not only the operating reserve managed by Chandler, as stated by Carla, but also a report that shows the other liquidity vehicles held by the district. Our focus is to invest in alignment with the safety, capital, and sufficient liquidity, as well as a market return consistent with your 1 to 3 year benchmark. If we move forward a page to compliance, I really like this version of the report because it shows where the limits are as well as the actual values within the portfolio. And the portfolio is in compliance with state code and that most awarded investment policy that Carla just talked about. And I would add that CMTA also included in their notes back to the district, you have an excellent policy. So bravo and kudos to all involved there. As we move forward to slide number 19 and just talk quickly about the portfolio characteristics, we continue to maintain a longer duration than the benchmark. There in the middle of the page, you can see we're at 1.82 modified duration versus the benchmark of 1.75. And the reason for that is we wanted to target higher yields, capturing those higher yields before the Federal Reserve started to do cuts in the rates. This, combined with our active portfolio management, helps support the purchase yield increasing to 3.9%. That's a 17 basis point increase over the quarter. It remains a high quality portfolio at AA+. And remember, the U.S. government is rated AA+ by S&P and Fitch. And because the market yields moved so much, those 42 basis points, bond math tells us that we should anticipate that the market yield would come down because of their inverse relationship. Now, I would note the market yield only decreased by $387,000, and that's because not listed here on the page, the portfolio earned $4.9 million on the quarter, so very strong portfolio earnings. Moving forward to sector distribution, there's not a lot of change that happens quarter to quarter. We are not an investment advisor that churns names. Instead, we really looked at making sure that the portfolio is focused on the safety and liquidity. So what you see here on the page is that we've purchased a bit more U.S. Treasuries than agencies because, frankly, agencies weren't providing very much pickup in yield. Besides, there's also been some talk of agencies being privatized, and while I will note that that would take a very long time, a lot of legal maneuvering, and a lot of big questions to be answered, the market has not begun to price this in as an option. So again, we want to make sure that the district is liquid and safe to any of those market movements. Otherwise, what you'll see here on this page, as well as the subsequent issuer pages in a moment, not a lot has changed from September. Duration allocation on page 21. You'll just see here it's a well-diversified portfolio, or the corporate allocation. The big thing I would note is that is all mostly focused in 3 years and in. And then the longer dated securities are those U.S. Treasuries and agencies. There is nice natural liquidity in the portfolio, which again you'll see on page 22. This is a comparison to your benchmark, that 1 to 3 year AAA corporate and government benchmark. The district does benefit from being able to purchase maturities greater than 5 years, given that approval that has come from the board. And so we have been talking about opportunities, given the yield environment has increased, to see if the portfolio could benefit from some of those additional securities without breaching any of those benchmark limits. Moving forward to issuers, I've already noted that we are continuing to have very similar names to what we've seen before. The portfolio is about 58% U.S. agencies and treasuries, and any of those names with credit considerations tend to be less than 2% just to increase diversification, despite being allowed to go up to 5%. On page 25, you see the ratings. Again, not a lot of movement. It just provides additional detail. And then subsequently on page 26, you can see across the board here as we look at total return, which includes realized and any market movement, so unrealized gains and losses. And you can see that the portfolio is, looking from right to left since inception, outperforming at 1.73% versus the benchmark at 1.55, and going all the way across back to 3 months, you can see that there is a little bit of weakness there, but it's pretty parallel, and a lot of it had to do with that big shift in market interest rates that I've repeated throughout this presentation. I would note that the markets are pricing in some period of stability given the uncertainty that's happening on the fiscal side. So your portfolio is well positioned for that uncertainty, again, with that natural liquidity that we've seen in prior pages. As we go forward to page 27, this is the other pools that are managed directly by the district. You'll note that with those shorter dated securities, their yields are falling alongside of the same pattern of the Fed funds rates as one would expect. And then starting on page 29, you can see the consolidated report as well as subsequent pages of holdings and transactions. So I will stop there to see if there's any further questions that I can address.
Thank you.
Yeah, not from my side.
That was good. Do we have a prediction? You might have said it. I mean, I know what I'm thinking. The Fed rate cuts for 2025. How many? How much?
The Fed has stated that they're anticipating 2, and the market is also anticipating 2. Chandler tends to put our horizons out on a 6-month basis, and so we're anticipating 1 rate cut, but not today.
Okay. We'll let you know if you're right.
So 2 cuts. Not 2%.
Yes, it's recorded, right?
I mean, all the people that were saying that the rates are going to go down, it just doesn't seem like
last year.
I know. Guaranteed,
Yeah.
And it's just not likely. I think there's inflationary pressures going to be coming over the next year that going to make it really hard to drop rates. Okay, that's my own personal opinion. But I agree with the two. I think you're right on that. That seems to be the consensus.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? We're good? All right. Thank you,
Thank
Carla.
you.
Thank you.
We'll have Samantha.
ERP.
And Samantha Lopez, our controller, will be taking this presentation.
Okay. Samantha.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, President Powell. Good morning, directors of the board. My name is Samantha Lopez, and I am here to present the quarterly update for the ERP and utility billing system. This is our project timeline. We have 3 project phases. Project phase 1 is the Spry Point utility billing and customer information system. Phase 2 is the Workday human capital management, payroll, and financials. And phase 3 is Workday financial planning implementation. This slide highlights the deployment phases. Each phase includes a stabilization period where the vendors will assist with any needed adjustments after deployment. Project Phase 1 and Project Phase 2 began October 7th. Over the last 3 months, the program governance was established to ensure accountability, guide decisions, and support the project's success. Barry Dunn provided management services, delivering several outputs that helped the district stay organized and on track. Each project phase completed specific activities, and overall the project is in green status. This slide provides a visual overview of the project's health. There are a couple of yellow categories to note. The schedule is yellow due to conflicts from a significant staff time required for implementation. To manage this, the district has mandated a 3 to 5 week lead time for scheduling on-site sessions with the vendors. Coordinating these sessions has been challenging with so many schedules involved, but we are making progress in aligning them. Risks and issues are yellow due to a number of risks and issues being logged at this stage. We have taken a proactive approach to identify and log risks early, allowing us to begin mitigation efforts immediately. Some of these risks and issues will be highlighted on the next slide. These are examples of some of the logged risks and issues. One of the issues we noted is that the Workday supplier portal is going to be phasing out March of 2026. This was not disclosed during the sales process, and we're currently exploring alternative options. Another one of the risks identified is the limited staff time. As previously mentioned, staff availability remains a challenge due to significant time for the implementation activities. As of December 2024, we've spent 1,376 hours of staff time on this project alone. One of the other risks noted here is limited district key IT staff time. The IT is involved in both project phases heavily, so they're managing numerous meetings and activities. Despite the workload, vendors have praised our IT team for their quick turnaround on assignments. And then the last risk to note here is functional expectations. While this is a standard risk for any project, we log this early on to manage expectations throughout the implementation. This slide highlights the Workday Project Phase 2 milestones and deliverables. All milestones are on track with a green status indicator showing target start dates and finish dates. So what we've completed with the Workday project is we've completed the readiness phase. During this phase, vendor leads and staff leads got together, and the vendor leads performed a demo to help the staff understand a baseline functionality of the system. This phase also included identifying staff training needs and planning upcoming sessions. Next is the planning phase, which includes an in-depth Workday training and discovery sessions. The Workday training alone is going to include 719 hours over this next 2 months. During these sessions, staff will work with vendor leads to complete configuration workbooks that will guide the system's initial build. Additionally, we're developing the change management strategy to ensure effective communication throughout the project. This slide highlights the Spry Point Project 1 milestones and deliverables. All deliverables are on track. There was a risk logged about IT potentially not meeting the data conversion deadline due to time constraints, but IT met the deadline and the risk was mitigated. Spry Point project summary, we've completed extensive discovery sessions and the initial discovery documents were delivered, which will help guide the system's first build. Some baseline system training has also been completed on the system. Next steps include deeper discussions on specific topics, additional configuration activities like data extract and workbooks. Core staff training and functional testing of the system are scheduled for mid to late March. The budget is on track. As of December 31st, the total cost, not including staff time, is $1.4 million. Staff time is about $82,000. Overall, the program is in green status. The Spry Point project is currently in the configuration stage and is progressing on track. The Workday project is currently in the planning phase and is progressing on track. With that, I will leave the floor for any questions.
Okay.
Could you just simply describe the difference between the Spry Point and Workday?
So the
Where
Spry...
Strata and Barry Dunn come in?
Yes. So Barry Dunn is the overall project manager helping the CVWD project managers coordinate the meetings, coordinate the sessions, kind of keep the vendors on track and in line. Strata oversees the Workday implementation. Workday is the financial system, the HR system, and then Spry Point oversees their own implementation, which is the utility billing system. So we really have two projects going on that we're kind of combining it into one program. There are different sessions, very different from each other. Workday has a different implementation plan than Spry Point. Spry Point jumped right into the discovery phases where we had on-site meetings and the staff and the vendors went through extensive discussions on how we currently process things. The vendors kind of showed us the capabilities of the system. You know, we have that give and take of this is what we want, this is what the system can do, and this is how we're going to do it. After these sessions, these discovery documents were completed, and that's what's going to be used to create the first build. And we're going to be able to start testing the first build and start refining those workbooks and those discovery documents. And I think we're going to go through 3 initial builds for the Spry Point implementation before we approve the build. And then Workday will have a similar, right now it was just baseline functionality, learning how the system works, so our staff can understand the automations that the system provides. And then now we're going through the discovery phases, we're building the workbooks that are gonna be used for our first initial build that we'll be able to start testing as well.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, good job. Get us started. Where are we here? All right, this brings us to board general comments. Director Nelson.
It's been pretty dry. Yeah, it seems like from the early snow that we got in the Colorado Basin, you know, it was well above 100%. Now it's in the 70s. You know, this storm may provide some relief, but not much. State Water Project, kind of the same boat. Hope this storm's probably hitting California a little harder over the last couple days, so that's good. Reservoir levels are high. State Water Project still at 15%. So
Somebody's got to turn on that faucet.
somebody's got to turn on the faucet, and you know, as you know, there's an executive order out there that President Trump issued this last week, and he's got it, and you know, it is, you know, demanding that the Secretary of Interior, who manages the USBR, come back within 15 days and have a plan to release more water. Typically, in the last Trump executive order, the feds released more water, but then there was a higher requirement of the state to meet environmental obligations that the state put out, so it actually reduced state's water. So it'll be fascinating to watch this process work out.
Director Bianco.
I've been thinking a lot about those check valves, and that I don't know why we have to be in charge of it. I don't understand why that the individuals can't do it themselves, and it can just come from the state. I mean, I don't understand, why we're gonna end up being the bad guys on this thing. That's what I think is gonna happen. I mean, the state water board, which is an unelected position, put these new requirements out, and they should follow up on getting them enforced. I mean, we'll have a timeline that if customers don't do it within 8 or 9 years, but why should it come from us? I mean, I really think they should be doing it. It's like they're throwing it all on us when it wasn't our rule. No, I mean, I think
This for non-potable?
you weren't here for the,
Domestic
Oh, this was at the study session.
you were here.
Okay.
check
Okay.
valves.
Got it.
they're
I haven't
requiring
watched it
double
yet.
check
For
valves.
backflow preventers.
Double check valves?
Double check valves. So everybody who has to put in a double check valve. It's gonna cost us $50 million, our customers. Oh, you weren't at that. We'll have another discussion.
I'll watch.
Yeah.
I'll watch.
So,
Yeah.
so the existing backflows need to get removed?
Yes,
They're single check backflows.
correct.
They're no longer gonna be allowed.
Oh, that's my comments.
It's
Salt
horrible.
water. Yeah, I mean, with the chromium-6 and now check valves. Crazy.
Add that to the legislative,
Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
my comment during the meeting was, what's the problem that we're trying to solve? Do we have a lot of customers whose systems are
Backing up.
backing into ours that's contaminating our drinking water? And I'm not aware of that being even a measurable problem.
is that a problem, Scott?
Don't they get certified too
Donald?
every year?
So
Okay, I'll have Ruben.
I would caution against getting into a discussion on an item not on the agenda if it was discussed at a previous meeting. If Scott wants to say it's in our policy
Informational.
principles, or you want to bring it back and have another discussion, I just would.
Well, yeah, and I believe there's a, the packet for the meeting is online, so this
All
might
right.
whet your appetite.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I'll go
Yeah.
back and.
I did want to mention, though, that Karen and I talked after that meeting about including, there was a big discussion at that meeting about the impacts of Chrome 6 and the cross-connection control policy that we have to implement, which is going to cost $50 million. So we talked about putting together a handout that we're going to provide when we do comment letters this upcoming legislative session. It'll address affordability and talk about some of these big issues that, these big policies that the state's adopting that we're having to implement and what the impact will be on affordability. So, just wanted to put that out
I
there.
just think a letter should go out to everybody, letting them know what's going on, and these are the people that do it, and let these individual businesses and homeowners contact the state and tell them what a hardship this is gonna be, instead of putting it all on us to do the work. I mean, we didn't put these things in, right? These were independent
Right.
we didn't put these in. These are, CBWD did not install these, so I don't think we should.
Yeah, I would just caution against any more detail on this. I mean, if you
Okay.
really want to fight it, we can bring it back and have a further discussion. I just don't want to impair that discussion by talking about it too much today.
Thank you, Jeff.
So I'll just add that we did install them. And yeah, I agree
So
with
we
you.
did install them.
Yeah, I agree with
We're
you.
required to install them.
It's unfathomable and how they expect us to accomplish all of this. But I don't, they're limited on resources, and that's kind of what they do. They make us the enforcer of the programs and the policies. But part of the program is public awareness. The state's concern is that, or they know that there is a lot of cross connections happening out there, and a lot of them aren't being reported. So part of the the program that they want is, what are the procedures to identify them, respond to them, mitigate them, and report them to the state within 24 hours. So that way there could be more public awareness around it, because there is the potential for the public health issues. So.
Thanks, Ruben.
Thank you. Yeah. Fair enough.
You've now incurred the
Sorry.
wrath of the general counsel. I think you'll be okay.
I'm going to add you to my list there.
Put to the 5 up here.
Yeah, it sounds like a bad thing, so thanks for bringing it up, and I'll make sure to watch that video too. That's it.
Okay, great. have any further. So it brings us to any, do we have any, besides the one we did earlier today, do we have any requests for future agenda items? Nope. Board meeting reports, there's a number of them right in line for Director Strati. Might as well just take them. It looks like the first 8.
All right, let me find the agenda here. Okay, on the Colorado River Board meeting, I don't think I was in attendance. You could remove that. The Agua Caliente mediation meeting, I was there. I think you might have reported on that already,
Yes.
so I was in attendance. The CVWD Chromium 6 pipe rig tour, I was also there with President Powell, so we were able to see that. Thank you for that tour. Looking forward to the findings. I think you said January they were gonna come out, so.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Okay, thank you. November 20th, I believe I missed that meeting. I had a conflict, so. Carrie, do you remember? I think that's the one I told you that I couldn't make, right? So I was not there. And was there for the annual conference of CRUA, so we were all there. And the employee dinner, I was also there. Happy to see that come back. And then December 9th, the mediation, I was also there for that one. That we're making some good progress there, so we decided to keep the momentum going. That's why you see kind of back-to-back meetings on those mediations. And I have some other meetings to add that are around that time frame, but I'll leave them at the end.
Okay.
Director Estrada, just, I believe you skipped over also December 4th, the CRB meeting, just for the record. Did you, I'm assuming that was during CRUA?
Yeah.
And you attended that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
January 15th, Director Nelson?
Yeah, the Colorado River Board meeting was held in Chino Hills. It's kind of a neutral place to kind of midpoint for everyone. I thought it was a good meeting facility and so forth. Yeah, kind of the standard meeting, water reports given and so forth. Then we did have, with Chris's retirement, the chair is responsible to presenting 2 candidates for the board to vote on, and it's just simple as that. And the chair wanted to have interviews to kind of solidify what the board's consensus might be. So we had a number of interviews, and I'm fairly certain he'll be the chair will be prepared to present a couple candidates at our next meeting.
Thank you. And that covers a 6-agency committee meeting as well?
Yeah, we did, the board's looking to do some kind of, there's a number of board members who would like better definition on their roles and responsibilities and opportunities on the board in engagement. So we're having a facilitator come in and we'll talk to the board, and prior to some kind of one-day retreat kind of thing. And so the facilitator's expense was on the 6-agency committee. It was pretty minor, so we approved it.
So, yeah, there's a January 15th disadvantaged community. That's the one I think I missed that one. That was the same day we had a principals meeting. I think that was the one I missed. Either that or I was on the phone, but I don't think I was there.
I must have missed that one too, because it doesn't ring a bell.
I think you're both right. Somebody else had some technical difficulties there, so it made it hard.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Carrie, was I there? No, yeah, so I think I missed that one, I must,
That was the
yeah,
one Sabrina chaired.
yeah, then I missed
Okay,
it.
yeah, I missed that. Hard to do two things in one day. All right, so this brings us to Salton Sea Authority, January 16th.
Yes, that was, at that meeting in Palm Desert, and, Jim, I saw you in attendance, and I was able to meet our new, Secretary of, what's his title, Secretary of,
Assistant
Secretary
Secretary
of
for
Salton
Salton
Sea
Sea
Policy?
Policy.
Policy, yes, so, is his last name Shea?
Yes.
Shea, so Joe Shea, he joined us and kind of gave us a nice update on the budget and potentially how some of the money that's been appropriated for Salton Sea would be rolled out. Kind of give us a sense of those approvals at the governor's budget. And there's, I think the one that we're really looking into is there's about, I believe, 10 million that was split either for the Conservancy or the Salton Sea Authority. So we might try to negotiate something there. And then we also had a new member on the dais, and that's the new supervisor at County of Imperial. Supervisor Sai? Martha? Singh, okay. Who happens to be the little sister of Director Cardenas.
Right.
So,
Oh.
which,
Right.
so we congratulated her and welcomed her. And then we had some presentations on from Army Corps of Engineers, I believe. They went over that big, they're calling I think they're calling it like a master plan that carries over to like 2030. It's a big project, and I think it's funded up until like 2026. And then we have to try to figure out how to make up the rest of that budget. And then there's some announcements on Autobahn is having a tour. I think I forget the date, but that seems to be something that they're going to do. And it also sounds like what agency said that they were going to plan like monthly tours, or it was in their.
I didn't bring my notes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm doing this from memory also, but anyways, a lot of good stuff. So that was it.
Thank you. January 21, we had that study session on the double check valves. So
I was not
those attendees
there.
are listed.
Okay.
23rd, meeting to discuss Thousand Palms and Burger. I was on that on the phone there.
I
More
was
to
also
follow
there.
on that one. We haven't really discussed that internally yet. So I had two to add. I kind of mentioned one earlier. January 15th, we had a principals meeting on the Agua Caliente, and then there was on the January 24th a Zoom where the tribe presented, did a presentation. Brent did a presentation on the memorandum of cooperation. Zoe was a part of that presentation as well. I thought it was actually pretty well presented.
And I was at both of those also.
Yeah. What else? Got more?
I have a couple. On January 17th, I attended a Aqua Region 9 tour of the Mission Springs Water District Water Reclamation Plant out in Thousand Palms. Beautiful, brand new facility. I think it's 1.5 million gallon per day facility. So a little bit on the smaller side. Great facility. On the tour also was Michael Placencia, who's the new executive director of the regional board, water quality board. So we can talk to him about these check valves, right?
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Super nice guy. We had a great conversation about water management. Thanks, Karen, for the introduction. And
Tell me his name again.
Michael Placencia. Yeah, it's very, very level-headed guy. I was impressed.
Agency background,
Yeah.
not state background.
Yeah.
Who's he with?
Regional Water Quality Control.
He's the executive director of the Regional Water Quality Control Board here in Palm Desert.
Important position.
So the previous one retired?
I guess, yeah.
Rasmussen.
Yeah, Rasmussen.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's had a couple months or
So that really made the tour worthwhile for me, anyway. But also, our tour guide was Andy Grunnett, and so Grunnett would be a familiar name to a lot of old-time CVWD employees. Tina Grunnett and I think it's Trina and Wally were longtime CVWD employees. He's doing a terrific job. Every morning, I look out my kitchen window in La Quinta, and I look through the window he put in my house. So he and my son were friends, and so it's just great to see, you know, those types of individuals just do well for themselves. I'm trying to convince him to come back to CVWD, but he's pretty happy where he's at.
You think?
Then on January 6th, I may have reported this last time. I had a Section 5 contractors call. I think I did, okay. And then on January 20th, I had a California Farm Water Coalition meeting of a subcommittee of the board on succession planning. So we got through that. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any more?
I have a few. December 13th, I had a meeting with Salton Sea Authority Executive Director to discuss the conservancy. He had some ideas on how to put that together. I think he might have had conversations with other folks, ideas on how to set that up. I believe that the Secretary of Natural Resources has the ability to appoint the first year, so I think he has some thoughts on that, so we had a chat. And then on January 9th, I had a meeting, Salton Sea Authority Executive Committee meeting with the Executive Director and the President of the Salton Sea Authority. And then on the 17th, Director Aguilar and I had a meeting with the Salton Sea Executive Director in preparation for our meetings that we're going to have with the new Assistant Secretary, which I think we're scheduled to have maybe this week or next week.
I think I have a call today.
Oh, it might be today. So, thank you for reminding me. So had those meetings, and then on January 10th, 11th, and the 12th.
That's actually tomorrow, sorry.
Tomorrow? Okay, thank you. So January 10th, 11th, and 12th, we hosted again the Water Education for Latino Leaders, which we've been doing. I was remembering, I think this is our 7th year. And these folks, as you know, are elected officials from up and down the state. They are council members, mayors, county supervisors, other water district directors that are new, college trustees, school district board members. And so there's a big effort to try to educate these elected officials on water policy. They spend 6 months together. They go to about 6 different locations in the state, all the way from the Sacramento area down to the Coachella Valley, and they go to LA, they go to San Diego, and they try to get a 101 on water. And so we had 12 participants this year. What's neat about this group is that when you look at who's been part of it, quite a bit of them have made it to the legislature. They're new assembly members, they're senators, and so we have friends up there in Sacramento, I think. And so on the 10th, they spent some time with me. On the 11th, I set up a schedule for them where they get to go out to the Eastern Coachella Valley. Same program that we've done, and we missed you this year.
Yeah, I missed you guys too. I like that group.
Yeah, so Director Nelson has been part of it I think all of the time.
5 of the 7.
5 of the 7.
Yeah.
And so they really like you. Hoping you come back next year.
I will.
Okay, thank you. And but
let's get it on the calendar.
Yeah, I called you too late.
Yeah.
But was able to have Zoe join us on a Sunday, and they liked her very much also.
Mm-hmm.
So and she's been involved with that group in the past, so it went well, and people really appreciate what we are able to put for them. A 3-day little thing, and so that was that. And then on yesterday, we presented at the Thermal Oasis Community Council at the Jerry Rumsfeld Community Center there, and that was at a request of the Community Council. And so we've done it in the past, but we hadn't done it in some time. And so they wanted just a quick update on the projects in the area that we're working on. And so staff, Carrie, thank you for helping with that and getting staff to go there. And so we had 3 CVWD staff members there, each presenting on water projects, sewer projects, and flood infrastructure projects. And I think they did an amazing job. It was a long presentation because it was very engaged. There was a lot of comments, a lot of questions, really trying to understand when some of the projects, when they're going to break ground, when are they going to be complete. Trying to understand, they were very interested in the completion of the stormwater channel project, that now it's going to remove the flooding. It's going to revise the flood map. So that was, so I was happy that staff was there. They did an amazing job. And then I got to meet your new engineer, I think, Eric Bang. So good stuff. I think just for the board and for staff, there's money that, the whole effort about trying to move the Oasis folks out of the Oasis Mobile Home Park, and you've been connecting with Monica Tellez and Elizabeth Marquez to try to give them a sense of where the infrastructure might be in North Shore, so they could use some of those lots to move families. There's also some conversation about trying to figure out how to increase the spaces at existing mobile home parks. And so I had heard one of those potential candidates being the St. Anthony's Mobile Home Park. I think they think they could add more at that park. And then there's that mobile home park that's right before you get to the yacht club. It has like that little tiny line that connects them. I forget the name of it, something Sol Mobile Home Park. And one of the comments that I had made, this was on a side conversation, is that I've heard concerns about capacity issues in that area because of that plant that we have in Bombay Beach. So part of the comment that I made was, to the extent that we can try to have an answer on what type of upgrades we might need there to facilitate more capacity, if the plan is to increase the size of mobile home parks there to discharge additional sewer, and if there would be constraints to that, what is it that we would need so that we can try to roll those costs into any type of bigger plan associated with the movement of those families and the creation of more units. And the state appropriated like $30 million as part of the Oasis solution, and those monies are being administered by the county. And so I think that we just need some type of answer. Do we really have if the county were to come, or a property owner at that mobile home park, and say, hey, you know what, I want to expand this mobile home park and add an additional 60 units, would that be a problem? And so I believe they already have some requests for hydraulic models on that, but I just wanted to note that is kind of brewing, so just so that you keep it in mind. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve per diem for the meetings reported on?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed 4-0. I feel your pain. So, general manager report,
I have nothing this morning, sir.
council report.
Just real briefly, wanted to mention as part of the Delta Conveyance Project, DWR is required to get a certification from the Delta Stewardship Council, which is a separate entity. There are only DWRs only at the part of the phase where they're doing some geotechnical investigations. There was a claim brought that said even those preliminary investigations require certification from the Delta Stewardship Council, and they need to stop doing that. The council ruled that no, that's not part of the covered action. That's not something that they need to approve. It's not something that is timely before the council. So that's has allowed DWR to move forward with these preliminary investigations, knowing that someday, once the project is completely designed and ready to go, that they will need Delta Stewardship Council approval. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff. Do we have any departmental reports?
No,
Hearing
sir.
none. At this time, the board will recess into closed session to consider the items on the agenda. We will reconvene following that to report out. Regular meeting is reconvened. We do not have any reportable action from closed session, and with no further business, we are adjourned.